All right, guys, let's get into our Saturday college football games on November 26th. We are going to start with Michigan versus Ohio State. Ohio State is minus 7.5. The over-under is 56.5. Huge game here, 2 versus 3. I'll go ahead and start. There's been a lot of talk about how Ohio State is way better than Michigan. The Ohio State offense will outgun Michigan. Ohio State always beats Michigan. I don't care because this is the year the University of Michigan kicks the shit out of Ohio State. They're going to run the ball down their throat. They're going to control the clock, and they're going to beat this Ohio State team bad. They're going to beat them real bad. I'm taking Michigan money line in this game. I'm going to start it off. Trey?
Wow. Okay. Well, you should have waited for last because it's tough to follow that up. But I'm going to follow it up with some good trends for the over 56.5. The over is 5-0 in Ohio State's last 5 home games. The over is 8-1 in Ohio State's last 9 games overall. And in this series, the over is 16-5 in the last 21 games between Michigan and Ohio State. I think these two teams are going to show up. I don't think the defenses are going to show up to play. Both offenses want to prove that they can win the national championship. So I'm going to go over the 56.5 for my trend.
Michigan and the over. Teats.
You act like last year Michigan didn't just absolutely blast Ohio State 42-27.
Don't care. Everybody's still talking about Ohio State's better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm sticking with Ohio State though. I just think that they're the more complete team. Last time I checked, Blake Corum was a little beat up, and he's going to get even more beat up in this intense rivalry game, especially with it being 2 and 3. And literally, what do they have outside of him? They don't pass very well. Their defense is amazing. Their run game is great. But outside of those two facets, there's nothing. So I think that Michigan, they do the same thing every year. Last year it paid out. I don't think it pays out again. I think that Ohio State takes it. They walk themselves into the Final Four for the national championship run, and then we'll see what goes on from there.
All right. A wide variety of picks. Michigan money line, Ohio State minus the 7.5, and the over 56.5 in that game. Let's move on to South Carolina versus Clemson. Clemson is minus 14.5. The over-under is 51.5. Trey, I'll start with you.
South Carolina showed up last week. They put a beat down on Tennessee. Clemson, they've been up and down. They lost one game, and they got dropped really bad in the college football playoff ranking, and they're struggling to make their way back up. But I'm going to go with the under 51.5 here. I do expect Clemson to win. 14.5 points is too much. Their offense has not looked very well, so I don't know if they're going to cover. South Carolina's coming into this matchup hot. The under is 4-1 in Clemson's last 5 games versus SEC opponents. And in this matchup, the under is 8-3 in the last 11 games between South Carolina and Clemson. So I do think Clemson's going to win, but minus 650 on the money line isn't even close to what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go under the 51.5.
All right. I'm going to take a shot on South Carolina in this game. Last week you said it. They beat the crap out of Tennessee. Spencer Rattler showed up for South Carolina last week, dominated the Volunteers on offense. So I'll back South Carolina again with Spencer Rattler. 2 scores is a lot to cover for Clemson, so I'll take the plus 14.5.
I'd say, and they were beating Tennessee even before. Yes. So I think that even with Hendon Hooker going down, I don't think that you could play that into effect. South Carolina was whipping them even before that happened.
Yeah, I think it was a 16, 17-point game. It was out of reach. So, All right, Teats?
If it wasn't Clemson, I would be so for sure on this game. South Carolina has been trash this year in parts. They beat the hell out of Tennessee, but they also only scored 6 points against Florida. They also only scored 10 points against Mizzou. So this Spencer Rattler is not this is what we expected during the preseason Heisman watch, but this is not what we got all season long. I think it's a fluke. I know that South Carolina is super inconsistent. They may be able to show up and play Clemson well, but Clemson also allows people to play them close every game. I'm not going to touch the spread here. I'm going to side with the under 51.5. Both defenses are pretty – actually, I can't talk about South Carolina's defense. I know Clemson's is pretty good. If DJ – I can't pronounce his last name.
Don't even
that one. Yes, sir. Yeah. If he gets pressured, he's not good. He makes bad decisions, just bad passes in general. And I've actually written about that a few times. It feels like this season. So I'm going to stay away from the spread. I'm just going to take the under.
All right, so I'm on South Carolina with the 14.5 and 2 under picks.
Gotta love that.
Disgusting.
All right, let's move on to our next game. Auburn versus Alabama. Alabama is minus 22.5. Over under is 49.5 in the Iron Bowl. Teats?
I hate the Iron Bowl because Auburn always plays Alabama great. But we've also seen Auburn teams that have been at least average, and this Auburn team has been way far away from average. They've been bad. I'm taking Alabama minus 22.5. That's really so many points I hated. I'd almost even try to buy a couple points and go minus 20.5.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if that will hit. But I do know that Auburn is trash this year. So I feel like Alabama, 3 touchdowns, it's very doable.
All right, well, I think it's the Iron Bowl. Both teams will play really hard. Auburn's very bad. I'm with Teats on that. They are very, very bad. They do run the ball well sometimes. Some games they do. But if they get down by a lot, this game will get out of control. But I'll reluctantly take Auburn to cover the 3 touchdowns. That's a lot of points to cover in a big, big game. So I'll take the 3 touchdowns. Trey?
I was going to take Alabama minus 22.5, and then Teats said minus 20.5, and I looked at that, and I do like the payout for that still. It's still minus 138. I would feel more comfortable betting that with that odds than the minus 22. So that's going to be my pick, Alabama minus 20.5. Auburn is 1-4 ATS in their last 5 games in Tuscaloosa. The home team in the Iron Bowl matchup is 5-0 ATS in their last 5 games. And Alabama is 9-0 ATS versus a team with a losing record. I think they're going to beat the crap out of Auburn. Easily a 3-touchdown game, probably by halftime. So I'm going to go Alabama minus the 20.5.
Change my pick to Alabama minus 20.5. I won't be the guy who bets against Alabama. That just won't be me. So we're going to team ride Alabama minus 20.5 in the Iron Bowl. All right, let's move on to Oregon versus Oregon State. Oregon is minus 3.5. The over-under is 58.5. Trey?
You guys know this by now if you've watched our channel. I will always ride with Oregon. Their spreads are never big enough for me to not feel comfortable with it. And if you hear the trends, it's paid off well. Oregon is 6-1 ATS in their last 7 games overall. Oregon is 6-2 ATS in their last 5 or in their last 8 games in Oregon State. And the road team in this matchup is 11-4-1 ATS in their last 16 meetings. So I'm going to go Oregon minus 3.5. I think that they should win by a touchdown easily, so I'm very comfortable taking this pick.
Yeah, Oregon State's no joke. They've been really good this year, but Oregon wins and they're in the Pac-12 championship game. I just don't think they're going to lay an egg on this one. So I'm going to take the Ducks to win and cover against Oregon State. Teats?
I think this is a team ride. I agree completely. Oregon is they haven't shown the past couple weeks what they were, and I think that they're a very good football team. With this being kind of like a do or die situation for that Pac-12 championship, I'm going to take Oregon minus 3.5. I'm also going to take the over, and I will probably take the over in almost every single Pac-12 big matchup besides maybe a game where Utah plays, because I know their defense can be very stifling at times.
All right, so it's a team right on Oregon spread, and Teats is taking the over 58.5.